Je suis en direct.
Alors, je te regarde.
C'est parti. Tu vois. On ne verra pas, je pense. Tu vois. Enfin, on ne voit pas, sauf si tu penches ta tête, mais je n'ai pas l'autorisation de ton papa, donc voilà. Parce que là, c'est du direct sur YouTube. Hein. Direct sur Internet. Hop. The individualistic theory of authorship would lead to the most absurd conclusions. If we regard the Iliad as a fine poem, the question whether it was written by one man or by many is automatically, for us, settled. If we regard Chartres Cathedral as a work of art, we must contradict the architects who tell us that one spire was built in the 12th century and the other in the 16th, and convince ourselves that it was all built at once. Or again, English prose of the early 17th century may be admired when it is original, but not the authorized version, for that is a translation, and a translation, because no one man is solely responsible for it, cannot be a work of art. I am very willing to allow with Descartes that often there is less perfection in works put together out of several parts, and made by the hands of different masters, than in those at which one only has worked. But not to replace his often by always. I am very willing to recognize that, under the reign of 19th century individualism, good artists have seldom been willing to translate, because they have gone chasing after originality. But not to deny the name of poetry to Catulus's rendering of Sappho merely because I happen to know it for a translation. If we look candidly at the history of art, or even the little of it that we happen to know, we shall see that collaboration between artists has always been the rule. I refer especially to that kind of collaboration in which one artist grafts his own work upon that of another, or, if you wish to be abusive, plagiarizes another's for incorporation in his own. A new code of artistic morality grew up in the 19th century, according to which plagiarism was a crime. I will not ask how much that had to do, whether as cause or as effect, with the artistic bareness and mediocrity of the age, though it is obvious, I think, that a man who can be annoyed with another for stealing his ideas must be pretty poor in ideas, as well as much less concerned for the intrinsic value of what ideas he has than for his own reputation. I will only say that this fooling about personal property must cease. Alors ça, c'est étonnant. Page 319-320. Non, pas là. Enfin oui, en tout depuis 2 mois. Late painters and writers and musicians steal with both hands whatever they can use, wherever they can find it. And if anyone objects to having his own precious ideas borrowed by others, the remedy is easy. He can keep them to himself by not publishing, and the public will probably have cause to thank him. Collaboration between author and performer. Certain kinds of artists, notably the dramatist and the musician, compose for performance. Individualism would maintain that their works, however influenced, as the phrase goes, by those of other artists, issue from the writer's pen complete and finished. There are plays by Shakespeare and symphonies by Beethoven, and these men are great artists who have written on their own responsibility a text which, as the work of a great artist, imposes on the theatre and the orchestra a duty to perform it exactly as it stands. But the book of a play or the score of a symphony, however cumbered with stage directions, expression marks, metronome figures, and so forth, cannot possibly indicate in every detail how the work is to be performed. Tell the performer that he must perform the thing exactly as it is written, and he knows you are talking nonsense. He knows that however much he tries to obey you, there are still countless points he must decide for himself. And the author, if he is qualified to write a play or a symphony, knows it too and reckons on it. He demands of his performers a spirit of constructive and intelligent cooperation. He recognizes that what he is putting on paper is not a play or a symphony, or even complete directions for performing one, but only a rough outline of such directions, where the performers, with the help, no doubt, of producer and conductor, are not only permitted but required to fill in the details. Every performer is co-author of the work he performs. This is obvious enough, but in our tradition of the last 100 years and more, we have been constantly shutting our eyes to it. Authors and performers have found themselves driven into a state of mutual suspicion and hostility. Performers have been told that they must not claim the status of collaborators and must accept the sacred text just as they find it. Authors have tried to guard against any danger of collaboration from performers by making their book or their text foolproof. The result has been not to stop performers from collaborating, that is impossible, but to breed up a generation of performers who are not qualified to collaborate boldly and competently. When Mozart leaves it to his soloist to improvise the cadenza of a concerto, he is in effect insisting that the soloist shall be more than a mere executant. He is to be something of a composer, and therefore trained to collaborate intelligently. Authors who try to produce a foolproof text are choosing fools as their collaborators. The artist and his audience. The individualism of the artist, partly broken down by collaboration with his fellow artists and still further by collaboration with his performers, where he has them, is not yet wholly vanquished. There still remains the most difficult and important problem of all, namely, that of his relation to his audience. We have seen in paragraph 6 that this, too, must in theory be a case of collaboration. Que fais-tu? But it is one thing to argue the point in theory, and quite another to show it at work in practice. In order to do this, I will begin with the case where the artist is a collaborative unit consisting of author and performers, as in the theatre, and consider how, as a matter of empirical fact, this unit is related to the audience. If one wants to answer this question for oneself, the best way to proceed is to attend the dress rehearsal of a play. In the rehearsal of any given passage, scenery, lighting, and dresses may all be exactly as they are at a public performance. The actors may move and speak exactly as they will on the night. There may be few interruptions for criticism by the producer, and yet the spectator will realize that everything is different.
Je vais même pas dans la chambre